Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
I'm Terry Woolman, and my guest today is composer, multi-instrumentalist Troy Dexter. I'd like to share with you my intention that inspires this podcast. Time passes quickly, and I've learned that we should do what's in our hearts and do it well without apologies or excuses. I encourage you to create your life and art in your own unique way and express your artistry with joy and abandon. Be willing to work uncompromisingly for what you believe in, and success will have a better chance of finding you when you live your life with integrity, focus, and passion. Be selfish with your discipline and selfless in your performance. And don't forget to have fun along the way. Troy Dexter is a freelance guitarist, keyboardist, record producer based in Los Angeles. He graduated from the prestigious but grueling 4-year program at Dick Grove School of Music, which, in his own words, robbed me of hours of sleep but left me with the ability to compose, arrange for an orchestra, and play a handful of instruments in most popular styles. In addition to his work as a composer and session player, Troy has been a touring member of the Wilson Phillips Band since 2008. Troy Dexter, welcome to Making It.
Mr. Terry, my brother, it is so very nice to be here and such an honor. I know you keep great company, and this is such a pleasure. And you and I have known each other for a minute now, but don't collide as often as I'd like. So this is great.
But when we do, it's always a blast. I actually don't remember ever doing anything with you, regardless of what we were doing. And some of the jobs that we've done have been challenging together. Yeah. Some of the live performances. However, I don't remember a time ever where we didn't make it fun because we were there together with each other. Like, you always brought the level up for me of just joy and integrity.
Oh man, likewise. I mean, the feelings are mutual, and so much of what we do is just about not only about the mutual trust on stage, but just the hang. Like, what's the energy just in the green room and on stage and off stage. Just all of that stuff matters. It goes seriously into the equation of our chosen career path that calls us.
Do you feel it's chosen, or that it chose you?
I don't even think the word choice came into it for me. Right. You know what I mean? I was off and running as soon as I hit that first chord on guitar that lined up with something that was playing on the radio. It was like a witching stick. It was like, like my whole body vibrated. It's like, I can do this.
So I want to ask you, I have an opening question for you before we get into your early childhood and what brought you on your journey, on your path. But I mentioned Wilson Phillips, a group, 3 wonderful women.
Yeah, man,
I do, because we both had the pleasure of spending time performing with them. I was their music director years ago, and you've been in their band for a really long time as a keyboard player, and then also occasionally as a guitar player. So my question is, what's it like to have a steady job for 12 years, especially, by the way, with artists that you love and respect?
Well, God, first of all, I do love them, and it's just such a pleasure to get up there in this day and age and play, and they sing, and, no tracks or anything like that. We just get up there and we do it. But it's been absolutely wonderful because it's just enough. We're never out on the road for weeks, or we're never on a bus. It's just, 1 or 2 weekends a month. Sometimes a week run long. Let's say we've played at Epcot a couple of times, things like that, where it's several days, but parked in one place, that is. But it's been great. I mean, it's probably, it's been over 10 years for me, and it's just enough. Everybody in the band, when I joined, they were all husbands, wives, parents, so nobody wanted to be like gone, 60 weeks a year.
Well, yourself included. You have a family.
Totally, yeah. So it's just the right balance for me to get out and kind of scratch that itch a little bit, and we have a great time. The girls are a blast. The band's great, and then come back home and kind of do what I do here.
And by the way, you mentioned no tracks; it's all live. And
oh yeah,
it reminds me they were that way when I worked with them in the '90s.
I bet.
Towards the beginning of their career, where their second album had come out, and there was a lot going on.
Man.
Their albums are beautifully produced by Glenn Ballard and the girls or the women, the three women now. They were in their 20s, when I first met them and started working with them. But even back then, they wanted everything live, everything. So we had the three of them singing, and then we hired three other women to sing as well. We had a large band, 2 guitars and keyboards and drums, and everything. It was I loved working with them, and I'm so thrilled that you've been able to have the same great experience.
Thank you, man. It is a joy, and of course we've been off for a year because of COVID, unfortunately, but I think that everybody wants to get back to it, when we get the all clear. So I'm excited to resume.
You getting any news, possible anything, or
nothing just yet? But I think it's going to be right around the corner. Mm-hmm. Just not to digress, but we will be fully vaccinated in a couple of months, and then our son turns 16, our youngest one, and he'll be able to get vaccinated then. So I think that'll open up a whole new world for everybody.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I know that you, as a family, have been really mindful,
totally,
as well, and isolated, and since we're talking about COVID right now, I want to talk about something that you and your wife Holly have been doing that I've been living vicariously through, but something that you did for your son, and it's called Destination Dinners.
The Destination Dinners.
Can you just talk about that for a moment before we talk about music?
Sure. Okay, well, it all started a year ago, spring break. We were supposed to travel with Holly to New York City. She had a gig and a place to stay, and it's like it would have just only cost us basically our plane tickets to get there, and we would have had a whole spring break week in New York. And this happened. That trip, it was scheduled for like a week after lockdown, so it was a crushing disappointment because Evan had been there. Our teenager had been there once before and loved it, and we were just so looking forward to it. So anyway, we decided to bring New York to our kitchen table, basically. Mm-hmm. So we just went on the internet. We printed out a bunch of stuff. With just junk I had laying around the house. I just made little sets and props and anything and everything having to do with New York City.
Broadway sign, or
all that kind of stuff. And then I put a big scape of New York City and on our widescreen TV on a loop, and we just try to create the vibe. And I forget what we did exactly, but we always try to have like a food and an activity that's relevant to the place that we do. So then Evan was so excited about it. He's, oh my God, this is great. Where are we going tomorrow? So we were like,
because it was a one-time thing.
It was a one-time thing. Right. But then it just kind of, it grew and grew, and like we just said, okay, well tomorrow, I forget what it was, but let's go to the beach, so we like blew up a bunch of beach balls and umbrellas and towel, and we made this whole beach picnic thing, and and we always surprise him. We always kick him out of the living room, put him in quarantine,
right,
and then say, okay, dinner's ready, and then he comes up, and he usually gets a pretty good reaction, and we just have fun. We just have a fun family night, basically, he's at that age where we don't always have all of our meals together and stuff. So now we've done over 50 of them, 52, right. 53 of these things. Each one's a different place. Sometimes we make up a made-up destination. We did a Black Lives Matter one. We did, we did a Birdland one, and because he's a jazz musician, we just go all over the world, and basically between leftover Halloween costumes and stuff I have out in the backyard and whatnot, we just kind of create a kitschy little funky cheesy themed dinner, basically, So, and Holly, my wife, makes videos of them, so we now have like a YouTube reel of them. So, it is wacky, but it's just our way of burning some energy and spending some quality family time together. So,
Well, Melanie and I have really been enjoying, vicariously traveling with you once a week.
oh my gosh.
We feel like we're getting out of the house also. So thank you.
Well, if anybody is listening right now wants to join the party, follow me on Facebook. There, I'm always tagged, and you'll see the videos.
That's Facebook/Troy Dexter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll find me. And it's actually Holly, Hollye, Dexter is my wife. She's the one that posts them, so you can follow her if you're so inclined or whatever, and also on her Instagram too. So there you have.
Thanks for sharing that. It's just so fantastic that you do that, and I know your son Evan really, really appreciates it. I can just tell by the way he lights up in the videos.
Yeah, I think so. Some more than others, but it's just a great way for us to spend time together as a family and do something wacky on Saturday nights. So
one of the many things that you and I have in common, in addition to being guitar players and composers and like-minded about health and bike riding and just getting out and staying healthy, but you're also a multi-instrumentalist like myself, and I'm just curious about that side of you, which I want to just talk about throughout today's conversation.
Sure.
But let's start with you growing up in San Jose and what your early family life was like, because you mentioned your son Evan is a jazz musician at 15 now, almost 16.
Yeah.
You've got another son who's a drummer.
He's a drummer, and as of late, he's become kind of more of a producer, writer, beat maker, kind of electronic music in the hip hop and R&B and rap world, and he's doing great, doing just fine.
And both of your sons are super talented. We've played together with your with your other son as a drummer as well. But, so what about you growing up? Like, what brothers, sisters, were your mom and dad musical? How did this happen? Did they encourage you? Did they discourage you?
Oh, they definitely encouraged me. They were behind me 100%. They're not musicians, but music lovers. And my mom, against my own will, had the good sense to put me into piano lessons. And by the way, I'm the oldest of three. I have two younger sisters, Cassie and Darcy. They're 4-year intervals. But anyway, Mom and Dad had the good sense to, amidst Little League and every other thing that was going on, put me into piano lessons, basically, which it didn't really take. I mean, I kind of did it and went through a few teachers and didn't really love practicing that much. But then when I was about 12, I guess, right around 12, I guess I have an Aunt Nancy, who gave me my first guitar. She just, I don't know what the circumstance was, but she said Troy might like this or whatever. She gave that to me, and then I, with one of the neighbors across the street, we started like learning how to play, and I learned chords from a book, basically, like a Mel Bay book or whatever. And like I said at the beginning of the thing, it's like when I played a chord and it matched what was coincidentally happening on the radio, my whole body just like shook, and it's like, I can do this. And then from then on, it was 8 hours a day for the rest of my life, and more. So I mean, that's the short story. And then right about that time, we moved to Orange County, where I went to high school. Dad got transferred, and I had just kind of gotten the music bug, and then and before that, I actually, just for fun, I kind of had learned to play the drums. A neighbor had a drum set. So this is like before I was 10 years old. I was just goofing around and ended up with a couple pieces. So I kind of had that, that tactile experience, with making music, but if you want to call it that at that age. But
I would.
Yeah. So then we, in the middle of high school, moved to Orange County in the middle of 9th grade-ish.
Was that rough for you or exciting?
It was hard to leave. It was hard to leave the friends and stuff that I had made, and I know my parents felt the same way. But it was ultimately, the right move. I quickly made new friends. Thank God there was other couple of guys that played music on my block where we moved. So I, got right into hanging with them and getting into a top 40 band and all that stuff. So that's kind of the short story, I'd say.
So you were closer to Los Angeles, to a key music city, in high school.
Right.
I know that your first day job was working for a company called PMP and
oh my
making
God, yeah.
buffer pedals.
Oh my God.
So were you always like a tech geek? And I mean that with love and respect?
A tech geek. I didn't ever know what I was doing, but I was the kid who would dissect a radio or dissect an old phone, or one time I bought at a swap meet. This is before we moved to Orange County. One time at a swap meet, I bought a control panel from a Cessna because I just thought it was cool. It was at like a swap meet, an old school swap meet where people just haul out their crap. And I just played with that thing and screwed around with all the wiring and made a phone out of the microphone that was in the airplane. I did all kinds of crazy stuff like that. So I was always interested in that, but I never knew what I was doing. I mean, I couldn't tell you what this capacitor does or this resistor does, or I just experimented, I just tinkered,
I was a kid that always loved taking things apart too. Yeah. And when I put them back together, there were always 2 or 3 additional parts left over.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Same for you.
I think we're related.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing, after that, I know when you were a teenager, you were playing 5 nights a week at the Red Onion in Newport Beach.
Yeah, man.
Dances, weddings, proms, everything.
All that stuff.
Here's my question for you. What did you learn during those 5 nights a week that you did not learn in school? And when I say school, music school, which we'll talk about in a minute.
I think, wow, that is just an awesome question. Okay, just first thing that comes to mind is, doing all these grind gigs, which are great. I'm so grateful for them. But I mean, we worked hard and schlepped our gear and pianos and organs and stuff upstairs. It was that kind of late nights. What I didn't learn in school is, no matter how much you practice and kind of get your thing together in a rehearsal or practice on your own, when you get to a gig or a session, and this is still true today, there's always some unforeseen circumstance that throws you a huge curveball. It can, so, such as, for example, maybe a chord doesn't work, or maybe, the stage, this is a big one, the stage is 8 times smaller than your rehearsal space where you polished your act, and now you got to cram in and, all of that. There's just always or the lighting is right in your face and burning your, blinding you and super hot, and you can't see your guitar, you can't see your pedals, you can't see your amp, or, there's just, there was a lot of that kind of stuff that was not taught in school. What was taught in school is don't there's already enough stuff that's going to go wrong. Don't take a chance. Get there early. Get there way early, so you can relax and calm down and wipe the sweat from doing your own cartage and, and chill out and get your head into the space, So,
and bring extra picks, batteries, strings.
I was the guy that always had a drum key on my keychain because the drummer's like, "Oh man, I can't. Anybody have a drum key?" There was. I always had extra stuff. I was the dude with the van or the station wagon that hauled the PA and the Fender Rhodes and all that stuff. So yeah, those were valuable lessons, and to this day it applies, I think.
So after high school.
Yeah.
How quickly did you make a decision to move to LA and go to Dick Grove Music School for a 4-year program?
Yeah, I graduated in 1979, and I started Dick Grove a month later in the middle of summer. Mm-hmm. I started their 6-month program there. So yeah, I just jumped right in, and it was sort of a collective decision between. I had a piano teacher at the time who had a student that went there. And it was a guy named Dean Schroeder. So if anybody knows where Dean Schroeder is, I owe him a debt of gratitude. So
Dean, you did a great job.
Did a great job, and he had kind of gone there, and studied with the same piano teacher. The piano teacher, she knew nothing about this, but she was just this sweet older lady, and she said to my mother, like, he needs to go to Dick Grove, Mm-hmm. And I think it was a moment where I was trying to play a classical piece for her at one of my lessons, and then at the end of the piece, I played like a Count Basie ending or something on a Mozart piece or something, and it's like, oh, this is what we're dealing with.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was sort of a collective decision between...
Were you encouraged by her? Because I was not. With my early teachers when I was a kid, anytime I started figuring out, Let It Be, Beatles tunes, or whatever, I was not encouraged by the teachers. They didn't really know what to do with me.
I never had... I only had 3 piano teachers, in the traditional childhood piano teachers. Mm-hmm. None of them were the kind that would slap the hand or any of that, Mm-hmm. I think it would be more like they just were, one or two of them were just kind of flat line,
Right.
The most recent one, her name was Mrs. Swan. She was good and encouraging, I'd say, but they weren't connected to R&B and
right.
pop and jazz, the stuff that kind of I was excited about at the time. So
yeah, likewise. So did you get an apartment? Did you get a roommate, or were you driving from Orange County to school every day?
I commuted for a couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
And back then traffic was bad, but it only took an hour.
Right.
I commuted for a couple of years, let's say, and then I got an apartment in North Hollywood, and I actually was there for a period of 5 years, I think, but I took a year off, and then I got a scholarship to go back,
mm-hmm.
but I couldn't pass up. So yeah, then I had my first apartment, and I've been in LA in the Valley ever since. So.
Right. And by the way, to our live listeners right now, we're going to be opening up the floor for questions a little bit later in the conversation. So we're really looking forward to your input and questions to Troy.
Sure.
So were you still doing your 5-night-a-week gig, or were you doing some gigs, or were you, delivering pizzas? Did you ever have a day gig, or has it always been music?
It's always been music.
Can I just say, wow? And congratulations.
Thank you. I mean,
because that's not everybody's answer on this show.
Yeah, I had the gig making pedals when I still lived with my folks
mm-hmm.
before I went to Dick Grove. That was during high school, right around that time. Anyway,
right.
But yeah, I've always been doing music. I mean, I was definitely broke for a lot of years. I got into the casuals and corporate wedding band. To answer the question, yes, I was still, while I was at Dick Grove for a few years, doing my top 40 band 5 nights a week. I worked for a year at Disneyland. I had a steady gig at Disneyland for a year, where it was weekends and then 5 nights a week during the summer.
Right.
Which was great, incredible experience. And
you're right, great training ground for a lot of world-class musicians.
Well, and you meet people, I've met people I still am connected to, it's incredible. And I also, like I said, got into the wedding band and corporate band circuit early, so that kind of phased me out of doing the 5-night-a-week top 40 and into weekend jobs when I could kind of sustain myself. Mm-hmm. And in my last year of music school, while I was doing all the wedding stuff, I would take one paycheck from each gig, for one gig I did each week, because I was pretty much working 2 or 3 jobs every weekend, basically. Mm-hmm. I'd take one of those paychecks and hire a copyist so that I could actually sleep, because I don't know if you were going to get there in your questioning, but one of the last program, the last program that I did at Dick Grove was called the CAP program, Composing and Arranging Program, and so we had to basically for the last 6 months of that program, we had to have a chart with all the hand copied parts ready for a 40-piece orchestra once a week.
Right.
And we had to show up, on the conductor's podium, pass out our stuff, and we had to be ready. Otherwise you got 40 musicians staring you in the face, and you got nothing.
My hand used to cramp up from copying all of my arrangements that I was doing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I did plenty of them, and then I eventually would just, spend my time writing the score and then hire a copy of,
And by the way, calligraphy pens, ink.
Oh.
Like old school.
Man, I would, for the parts, for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So, I'd stay up all night at Denny's, drinking coffee and eating and with my score pad and write the music, write the arrangement, and then give it to a copyist at 6 a.m. or something. So, anyway, good times.
I see we're getting some great live reactions from the people in the audience. I just saw somebody put their hand on their head.
Well, welcome to my career, whoever that is. Right?
That's Lily. Thank you, Lily.
Hi, Lily.
So here's really what I'm very curious about. I mean, so many things about you, because as long as we've known each other, we haven't really had a straight hour alone together to just talk. I mean, we've had dinner at each other's houses, but most of our time has been on stage together,
right.
Playing together. And so back to multi-instrumentalist. When you were in school, were you there as a guitar player or as a piano player or both, or is that really part of where you learned to play banjo and mandolin and B3 and I can go on, but as opposed to playing electric and acoustic guitar and piano?
I went to school as a guitar player, but I never took the guitar program. I always took like reading and ensemble and
likewise.
I talked about the composing and arranging program. I would be in the band. I would be in the orchestra playing down the composer's charts. I was in those kinds of programs. I never took a specific guitar program. As a guitarist, and I sort of taught myself how to play guitar player, banjo, kind of, and that kind of stuff.
Is that when you started doing that, or was that later? Because I guess mine came early too. I was learning banjo when I was a teenager, and then kind of forgot about it, and then came back.
The thing that drove home the banjo thing was that I had to play it at Disneyland. It was like I had to get it together because that was part of a show. I had a banjo moment. So that kind of started me on that path. And again, 90% of the banjo work that I do is like riverboat strumming, that kind of world. Bluegrass is another thing. I can do it, but it takes me a minute to warm up, and that is definitely a double. I'm a pretty good strumming kind of banjo player. But
right. And you tune your 4-string banjo to standard banjo tuning or guitar style?
Pretty much
Tommy Tedesco style.
I do Tommy Tedesco style, meaning it's the exact same pitches as the highest pitch 4 strings of a guitar. And the reason that I do that, and I do the same thing on my mandolin, which requires a special set of strings in order to do that. But the reason that I do that is so that I can read. Yeah. I mean, there are guys, of course, that can sight read on mandolin in its proper tuning, and I just didn't get enough calls to kind of go down that road. But if somebody wanted a mandolin on something where I had to read through chord changes or something, that's why I did it that way. And same with banjo.
So how did you, and more importantly, how do you manage your time to stay at pro level on so many different instruments, especially being a working composer, session musician, touring musician, pre-COVID, and will be again soon for all of us. Not to mention husband and father of more than 2 kids. You've got grown kids too.
Oh yeah.
So how do you do that? How do you manage your time?
Well, I mean, on the days, thankfully, I work most days these days, and that's been the case for a number of years now. But I mean, on days when work was slow, I mean, I would practice. I mean, I never forget the importance of practicing. Something. And then also, getting to the gig early helps. You have time to practice. You have time to get your fingers greased. I use that time. When I worked at Disneyland, every break, when I wasn't like, giving my money back to Mickey and playing video games, I would go under the stage and practice. I would work through tunes in the fake book or whatever. And then I'd say now, I have gigs each year, kind of seasonal things that come up where I'd have to do some arrangements or this or that, and in the course of working out arrangements, I'll use some of that time to practice the piano or whatever. So and if and then there's gigs where like I have something coming up, like a blues gig on keyboard, just a fun gig or something like that. I'll spend some time that week, like I'll shed, and it's like, oh yeah, okay, it's not stuff I do every single day, so kind of get my head in that space the week before and spend even if it's 15 minutes a day, it helps, so.
Another unique thing that I found that you and I have in common is we both studied comedy improv. And I know that really impacted your life and mine as well.
It did, yeah. I didn't know you did that. Awesome.
I worked with Gary Austin, who was the founder of the Groundling Theater.
Oh, well, you're at the top of the food chain there, man. That's top of the improv chain.
Well, yeah, but Gary was also he was a legit country singer-songwriter.
Wow.
And when I say country, I mean like cowboy kind of songs and really, really great songs. So I was playing in his band when I first moved out here and produced his early recordings on my 4-track, my
That's fantastic.
And all that stuff. But Gary talked me into taking improv with him. He thought it would help me as a performer, which it was invaluable to me. So I know it was to you. How did that change your life and your as a performer, as a musician, as a human?
That's a great question, and if anybody listening has a chance to take an improv, like join an improv class, and we're talking like the Whose Line Is It Anyway, where you kind of play silly games with the audience and make up skits and all that, I cannot recommend it enough. It is absolutely transformative. For me, there's a couple of different levels to it. One is, my whole life and career is pretty much in support of other artists. And then, when I finally started got my record out and started doing shows of my own, here and there, I mean, I can't lie. I got to be honest. I still get a little bit of nerves, man. A little bit of butter. I've been doing this forever. Mm-hmm. But I still get a little bit of butterflies and nerves and just having that improv experience. Now, this was 2011, right before Evan was born is when this happened. 2010, 2011, right around there. Is that right? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, it just kind of taking improv kind of helped calm the nerves. When I'm doing my own solo thing, I could it just gave me the tools to put myself in a better space. I still get a little bit nervous, but not nearly as much. It just kind of helped me just feel my feet in the ground, feel my ass in the chair, and stay grounded, breathe, and listen to what's going on around you. Look, don't get so head clamped that you can't see or hear anything else. It's just so important when you're doing your own shows and whatever. Improv really helped with that. The other thing too is on a spiritual level, I feel the whole thing about improv is that you have to take what's given to you on stage, no matter what it is, and you can never say no. You can never deny. Like your partner comes up and says, "Hey, that's a nice red shirt you're wearing." You can't say, "No, it's a red shirt." No, it's a black shirt or whatever. You have to accept what they say and then heighten it in some kind of way. And usually the funniest thing is when you don't try to be funny. You just you just accept it and respond. And so, spiritually, the way that translated to for me on a deeper level is that, we're in pain when we are resisting what the hell is happening right in front of our face. When we don't accept gracefully what is given to us, that is when we suffer. And I spent years, I'm not afraid to admit, I spent years just like resisting, like, why? Why is this happening? Why is this not happening?
Right, resisting what is.
Resisting what is. When I just finally learned to say, yes, and. Okay, this is what's given to me. And then sort it out and deal with it, stay grounded and, doesn't always work, but I try to stay as calm as I can and just deal with what's presented,
Right.
So it was really something.
I'd
like to do it again.
Yeah, I think I would too. And I think it would to come back to a skill set or anything that helps be grounding, but also increase awareness and accountability, or just being present. Present is always a good thing.
The best thing. How many years of our life, cumulatively, are we spent like, in a panic, in a desperate, frame of mind where we're not present, and then time is just going by. You can't remember, all that, blah blah blah. So
there's so many things to talk about always with my guest, and always with you whenever I'm with you. We're going to circle back to this, but I want you to know that we're going to be talking about the fire that you had when you lost your house.
Yeah.
Because that's another experience where, you really have to look at what is. But before, so that's a little teaser right now. We're gonna circle back to that, because you also mentioned the idea of being an artist and, needing to be present and as a performer and putting your ass in feeling your ass in the seat and your feet on the ground and literally doing that.
Yes.
Like tactile things like that. When I used to music direct for late night talk show for the Byron Allen Show, when I did that, there was a certain tradition that sort of happened intuitively, where I had this wonderful band, and standing next to me was Gerald Albright on saxophone, and so Gerald and I would high five each other, and then I would grip the neck of my guitar and kind of squeeze it like a handshake, and it grounded me. I sort of did that intuitively, and then we realized that we had these traditions that were grounding physical experiences that helped us quiet down the chaos that was going on around us so that we could be present and do our performance.
That is awesome, man, and I can't even imagine the level of it in a talk show as you're about to go.
It's a lot. Red lights and people yelling in your ear and your face and everything and all that stuff. But what that brings me to, because you are an artist amongst many other things, what inspired you to make your album Shop Talk?
Well, the thing I'll never forget is you saying, you're going to die one of these days, right? So why are you procrastinating? It's not now, when, So that was
that conversation.
That was a profound margarita sharage moment. But I've just always wanted to, but never, call it an excuse, but just never really carved out the time, or never really felt like I had the discretionary income to take away from my family to do something like this.
I'm glad that you're saying that, instead of that you didn't feel that you had anything to say as an artist, that it was more financial or reality based problems instead of self-doubt.
Well, I wouldn't say I was void of self-doubt. I mean, when I'm in my lizard brain or was depressed, I would definitely have days where I'd say, well, what can I offer that's new or whatever. But really, once I got past that...
Troy, do you think that's special to you? I mean, I really think that's part of being an artist. You're calling it the lizard brain, but just the questioning. Am I good enough? The enough thing and all that stuff. And what can I do that hasn't already been done? But I mean, it probably would have been helpful, years earlier, when I kind of had written some songs and to talk with other artists, to have like a little, powwow with other artists and see how they do it, what they're going through, and didn't always. But once I finally got into the headspace of like, I don't care that I have to reinvent the wheel, and I
somewhere along the way felt like people could smell bullshit a mile away. Like if I was not authentic in my music, people would go bleh.
Right.
So I wanted to just stay true to stuff I dug growing up, which in a nutshell was many things. But I mean, my record kind of came out as this instrumental. I don't want to compare myself to Steely Dan, but it's that kind of influence. It's all instrumental, so no words, and just kind of easy melodies with what I call grown-up chord changes to play solos over, and fun grooves. So it's like I want to keep alive and do my own thing to stuff I really dug growing up with. So
that's the perfect description of your album musically, because it's truly authentic, but it does have all of those elements that you're talking about: grown-up chords and catchy melodies and great grooves, with world-class players and your own unique point of view because it's authentic.
Yeah, again, I get remarks that okay, influences are obvious, but this is. It's still you, and this is great, and so I'm just glad I kind of resolved myself to signing the painting in that way, if you will. So
I love your album, and I still listen to it, and
that's really nice.
I
love your albums too.
Well, thank you, Troy. and I wanted to everybody to know about them. So iTunes, Spotify,
all the above.
TroyDexter.com.
That's it.
Go check it out, and also keep your ears peeled, because you're working on a new record right now too, during the lockdown and everything else that you're doing with your daily composing and destination dinners and bike rides and
I am. I don't know if and I'd be open to suggestion on this, because I don't know these days if a CD is the way to do a thing. I think it might be a scene where I drop singles, as it were, and then once I have enough, then maybe put them into an album, because
it's a collection.
Yeah, because people are, ADD these days, and they won't remember a single here and there, but so it might be fresh when I put it all together. But I think for the time being, I'm gonna just put out singles. I've got a few out, just kind of scattered on my Facebook wall, so to speak, and I gotta master them and re-release them and put them out on Spotify and all the places we do. So,
by the way, I encourage everybody, and every opportunity I get, I do this to all of our listeners and fans. It really makes a big difference to us, and it doesn't cost you anything to take a moment and go to Spotify, go to our YouTube channels, and hit subscribe, and share. If there's something you like, let everybody know about it, because that's the only way that we get, essentially right now, especially without being able to tour, to be able to monetize the music that we are putting our heart and soul and bank accounts into. Would you agree, Troy?
Oh, I would agree. Yeah, thank you very much for making that point. The social media, of course, the likes and all that, but if you share a song or just say something about the music on your own Facebook and Instagram and Twitter feed, it really, really helps. I can tell you that during COVID and stuff, I had put out a couple of my new tunes, and people that I didn't know heard them around the world, and then they hired me to do guitar work on their albums, and that has kind of been a nice little extra thing for me. Meeting all these new producers and songwriters all over the place, and it's kind of been a new income stream, really, and it's all because I put out my own music, or I played on somebody's, and somebody shared it, and then hit me up privately to work on their music. So it really helps. Go ahead, Terry.
I'm so glad to hear that. And the beauty now, because so many of us professional musicians and artists, voiceover people, actors, we have home studio setups where we're able to collaborate internationally.
For sure.
And it's been really a very exciting and beautiful part of the global lockdown right now, is the relationships or the collaborations that have been opening up.
Definitely.
Have been really fantastic, and I'm grateful for that.
Very grateful, and even if some songwriter or producer just, when if he's not doing something for money, these people are so creative like we are, and they just need to do something, and they want to collaborate with people.
Right.
It's just that has been really a beautiful upper layer to all this,
So let's circle back to the fire.
All right.
This very life-changing experience for you and your family. Your wife Holly ended up writing a book about it.
Yeah.
But you lost all of your instruments, and one of the things that I do know is that there's some really wonderful friends who just started loaning you instruments for sessions and things like that. Some of the top guitarists in Los Angeles in the music business. So tell us the story, the short version of the story, and how that really changed everything for you.
Well, in the middle of the night, we were living in a 3-story house up by Dirt Mulholland and Woodland Hills that we were renting. And in the middle of the night, this is the same year as the earthquake, so 94, but it was 9 months later in November. So we basically, it was like a really cold night, and we had lit fires in the fireplace and that kind of thing, but put the fires out, and but we basically went to bed in a burning house. I mean, and it wasn't from our fireplace; it was an electrical fire, and we think that something got jostled in the earthquake or something like that. But the short story is that I was awoken by a smoke alarm. Holly went into sleep with Evan that night, thank God, which is almost like, I don't even know what the word is, but just,
Was it just the three of you? Were the other kids grown and out of the house, and you and the pets? And
it was I'm sorry, it was Taylor. Not Evan. This is before Evan was born. This was Taylor when he was 3 years old. Yeah.
Right.
Kristen was our daughter, who's our oldest. I'm her stepdad, so she was at her dad's house. Thank God. Mm-hmm. So yes, it was just the three of us and our pets. And I woke up to a cloud of billowing smoke in our bedroom. Me sleeping alone, and the smoke alarm woke me up. I opened that door. I jumped out of bed, opened the door. The doorknob was burning hot, and the heat of the smoke just blew me back. I couldn't even walk out the door. So I just went out and I just started screaming. I went out onto our balcony. This is on the 3rd floor, and started screaming for Holly. I tried to wake the neighbors. I could hear windows blowing out, all this stuff. And so I tried to get around to the window where I knew that they would have to get out of, because I couldn't get to them. So I tried to climb over the balcony deck, and the handrail snapped off. I fell on my back. It fell a story, but I was in shock. I got up, I went around, and then, the sight that I will never forget is my kid's legs dangling out the window while black billowing smoke was pouring out the window. All I saw were his legs dangling out of this smoke. And I screamed to my wife, drop him, drop him. So she dropped him, I caught him, and I turned back around to, this is in the middle of the night, freezing cold. I turned back around, looked up in the billowing smoke, and by then Holly had already jumped out the window and landed on the cement. She landed on the cement stairs. So we ran and screaming, woke up all the neighbors. And it was 50 firemen, 3 helicopter drops. We were at the neighbor's house, went to the hospital. We all had carbon monoxide poisoning and burns. And anywhere that Holly was wearing jewelry, it burned her skin and stuff. I never got burned, but I had the worst
inhalation,
carbon monoxide poisoning. Right. And so for a few months we lived at Holly's mom and stepdad in the Thousand Oaks area while we tried to get back on our feet. Then we got into a house that following February. We went into a lease option, and those were just hard years. I thought I could recover from it in a year. I could. It was 10 years. I mean, it was a long road. And, we had a lot of friends, that turned on us and left, and a lot of new ones. And, the cream rose, the cream
Right.
rose. And, it tested our relationship. That we were, when a couple goes through something together where you're both
Right.
in crisis, it's, the fuses are short. And
Right. I was just going to ask you how that impacted your marriage.
yeah, we had some really, really rough times,
Mm-hmm.
There were some really good times, a lot of times where we had made lemon out of lemonade, in the spirit of destination dinners. We had no money, but we'd be like, hey, kids, want to have pancakes for dinner? And just Holly was so great at like creating, making art and making fun things out of just scraps and, and just making nice little things for the kids so that we always.
And your wife, you're both artists. Holly is an artist. She's a singer, a writer.
Yeah.
She's also, just so everybody knows, gun safety, or how would you say? She's an activist.
Gun violence prevention activist.
Prevention.
Not anti-gun, not gun grab.
Right.
Just gun violence prevention activist.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's a whole other podcast. She's a survivor and with a story. But those were the she was the one who could really make sure that something was under the Christmas tree in those difficult years, making things and that kind of, she was just always so great about that, and still is, of course. But they were hard years. They tested us as a couple. They tested, me as a man and the person that just wanted to like write a check out of this problem, and I couldn't. Brought up all my insecurities and it revealed the chinks in both of our armors, and we, it was
well put.
But it really, there's so much to it. We got into two or three different houses after that where the landlords were crooks and got evicted and left and kicked out, all this kind of crap. And it's like at the time when we needed that the least, so after then we finally got our house that we're in now. We finally were able to buy it, and believe it or not, a bankruptcy worked in our favor. So we were able to get this house on our 10th anniversary. We got the keys on our 10th anniversary in 1999, and we've been here since. But it was not easy, but there was support. There was support. The cream rose with our friends and some family and that kind of stuff.
Well, your home, when I've been to your home, your family home, it's a house that feels like it's built on love and filled with love.
Well, I would.
It's comfortable.
It's
and I've always felt very welcome there.
Well, you always are, my brother. Always. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, we like a house that has lots of personality. We have lots of books and lots of pictures of the family, and lots of musical instruments laying around all over the place, and we like it here.
Yeah, I can see why.
I like my house,
and it's also close to bike trails and hiking and everything, which is really great for you.
Yeah,
Troy, we have another audience member who just jumped on stage with us, and Connie Jackson, who is actually going to be my guest next week on the show.
I saw that. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and Connie is she's a singer and artist as well, and also an actor on NCIS. And hi, Connie, how are you? And do you have any question for Troy? Isn't it something? Yeah.
Hey, Connie, how are you? Nice to virtually meet you. I know of you, and I think you were on the show last week too, and like that. So, anyway, pulls you up on stage for improv.
Connie, anything you want to ask Troy? Or and by the way, Troy, why don't you tell Connie and our audience the name of the book that Holly wrote?
Yeah, I was going to say, if anybody listening is interested in the full comprehensive story of that time. Holly wrote a memoir that's out. You can get it on Amazon or wherever books are sold. It's called Fire Season by Holly Dexter.
Fire Season.
Fire Season, yes. And that tells. Yeah, there you have. Yeah, there's that will tell you the whole story: the good, bad, the ugly, the hard, the blessings, the curses, all of it. So, yeah. So, yeah, but thankfully, it's in the rear view mirror, like about 25 years now or so. Yeah, but thank you very much. I appreciate that a lot, and I think that some of the stuff, it stays with you forever. It's just part of you, but it doesn't define who we are now.
Well, it's it really is quite a beautiful miracle that you all survived the fire, and it wasn't an easy survival. I know that for sure, and but you have definitely not wasted any of your life from that point on. It doesn't sound like you've wasted much of your life prior to that either, Troy.
Well, just family and music are just so important to me, and I try to water those gardens a little bit each day, if not a lot, So,
absolutely. I want to get we've been speaking for an hour, which I flew by. No surprise to me,
because we're having fun.
Absolutely. I want to get to my closing questions that I ask all of my guests, and then I'll give you final words for anything else that's on your heart or mind. Since this show is called Making It, what does making it mean to you, both personally and professionally? And can you also share 3 tips for success that have driven your career?
3? Oh boy, I don't know. Making it. So is that the right question 1?
Yeah. What does making it mean to you, personally and professionally?
Making it for me personally is taking care of my relationships, with family and friends, and I think there's times when I don't as much as I should, and then there's times when I do. And quelle différence, take care of your relationships, take care of them. And also just, I guess personally and professionally, what it means to me is to be able to take care of my family and take care of my future and take care, be able to pay my bills and travel and have adventure and go visit our beautiful grandson in Japan when we can, and be able to do those things. I think I have a lot of issues around pride and wanting to take care of my family, and sometimes I can do it on my own, and sometimes we need both of us, and so it's kind of a sliding thing. But ultimately,
you're not alone, though.
Sometimes I feel I know. But sometimes I just want to be totally transparent and honest. But so that said, sometimes I feel like I've made it, and sometimes I got a minute. I got a minute to go. But I guess that's the bottom line, shot from the hip definition of
Thank you for that. Thanks for your transparency on that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So since you're the guy who's the guitar player / keyboard player that shows up to gigs when you're in high school with a drum key around your neck or on your keychain, over prepared, and you've shared some really great tips already throughout this whole conversation, but what would 3 tips for success be that have driven your career that you would recommend to as a mentor, as a teacher, because I know that you were both?
Man, I would say
show up early.
Anybody, anybody that's success. It's not a secret. Take care and then some of your instruments. Don't practice. Get into it. Deep dive. It's not a hobby. You know what I mean? You have to stay in shape. And then whatever it is that the gig requires of you, like if you get a gig and you on day one, you want to be over prepared. You want to, whatever you have to learn, to be so deep in your DNA. You have to learn, if you're a background singer, or you want to learn all those inner parts, learn all the parts, learn all of it. Like, get it so second nature, so that you just, if your brain, because there's going to be that unforeseen circumstance, you're going to be blinded by a light on stage, or a monitor's not going to work, or
4 hours of sleep, or
somebody changes the schedule or something. I mean, you want your job part of it to be second nature. That's I can't say enough about that. It's just be over. And I've had gigs where I'm not, and I suffer for it. I mean, I feel tension. I'm not relaxed. I don't feel my ass on the piano bench, or whatever.
Right.
You just want to take you want your job to be as great as it can be. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you just want to walk in tall, like you've done your homework. And take that out of the equation, because there's going to be other shit, So, I don't know if that was 3 things, but
wasn't counting. But they're great points. They're absolutely great points. I agree with you.
And don't be, and I would say too, like, for example, I had to learn how to engineer. Nobody taught me. I didn't read a book. Like, this is going back, 25 years ago. I had to learn how to be an engineer by doing it.
Right.
And don't be afraid to learn something new. Like, it's like learning another language. And necessity was the mother of invention. If there's something lacking in your career fulfillment or whatever, maybe you need to learn another skill in order to make that primary one better.
Right. So don't resist it.
Yeah, don't resist it, and also just maybe think about, like, maybe there's some other skill I need to do to kind of give rocket fuel to me being a singer, or a guitarist, or a keyboard player, or drummer, or whatever. Nowadays it's really great. It's beautiful to me that I'm seeing all of these people who weren't engineers learn how to record themselves from home. Trumpet player, sax player, some always have, but I know some didn't. Some just learned it in COVID lockdown. I just think it's great, because we can all collaborate. Just
right.
great.
COVID has upped the game for a lot of people, not just artists. Business people, everybody that embracing these new skills. It's something that is going to remain integrated into the future of our world.
Absolutely. After lockdown, we're going to be able to do this stuff, from home when we choose to,
Right.
And then the other thing just popped into my mind, I guess this could be number 3, if you will, but take care of yourself, your health. Go effing play outside, man. Get out on a bike, go get some sunshine, take a trip, the downtime, the soul restorative kinds of stuff is critical for me. It's like, I call it shaking the mental Etch-a-Sketch, So that shows how old I am. But get out and take care of yourself, man. Go play outside, get some sunshine, exercise, move,
Yes.
So.
Yeah. That was one of the things that I learned from working with Dick Van Dyke when I produced him, because I had the opportunity to get to know him, and he's actually written a book about it as well. But it's essentially his whole point of view is keep moving.
Yeah.
And be playful. Do what you love. Or if you do things that you don't love, still keep moving. Stay active.
Right on. Yeah, take a 15-20 minute break, go out in the backyard, run around, just throw a basketball, whatever, just something to shake the Etch-a-Sketch, and it'll come back and serve the music, or whatever it is you're trying to make it, and it will.
Or your marriage, or your job if you're not an artist, or every meal that you make. Of the 3 meals a day we're all cooking now, and
absolutely,
even the washing of the dishes, just try to.
Absolutely, it helps. It helps fill the well, as we say.
Yeah. Well put. By the way, you're talking so beautifully about remaining open to learning new things and embracing, not resisting, new skills. And you're you are upping your game with Japanese, not only learning more about speaking Japanese, but you're learning to read Japanese right now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other podcast, but
yes, it is.
Okay.
I throw in at the end of the show.
Yeah, our grandson moved to Japan. He was raised initially here, but he doesn't speak in English like he did when he was here, and so we just want to be able to talk to him when we visit, and it's been a fantastic journey trying to learn, So and it's fun. It's just definitely keeps the neurons firing to learn a new language. It's
absolutely,
it's great. So.
Troy, my closing question is, at this point of your life, with everything that you know to be true, what would you tell your younger self?
I would tell my younger self to not compare myself to other people so damn much. Just find my own voice, and be. Maybe this came from improv too, but just be as happy as you can for people who can do stuff that you can't do yet, or I had the jealousy stuff going. I had a lot of stuff, those feelings that in younger years got in my way, especially after the fire. But if I could have just been happier, just be as happy as you can for people who do stuff that you don't do. It's okay if I'm not Eddie Van Halen or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just, I only need to just be the best me that I can be and keep building on that, But I would say to my younger self, so what? So that guy can do that, you do this, Bet he can't play keyboards, or whatever, that kind of thing.
Right.
I didn't have that self-talk was not nearly loud enough in my younger years,
Yeah, or catch a baby son out the window when he's being thrown to you. That's a skill not everybody has.
Well, maybe thank God for Little League, but anyway, no, those are things that you don't even think about. You just do. But not having that younger self, positive self-talk. I mean, I had a lot of dark, not dark, but just a lot of tough days. Sure. Dealing with those feelings. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I always felt like everybody in the world was doing better than me, and blah blah blah. And I would tell myself younger self to shut up and just do you. In a loving way.
Said. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Troy, thank you so much for spending the hour plus with me. I just want to give you the floor if there's anything that you'd like to close with, or anything that you want people to know about you, where they can find you, or parting words of enthusiasm or support, or.
Well, I just want to give everybody. Well, thank you. I've talked enough about me, but I feel like I just want to give everybody out there love and support, and just follow what makes you happy. Do it. Find a way to do it. Even if it's not your livelihood in the next hour, just find a way to do the things that you love. And then as far as finding me, I'm on Facebook like crazy. Facebook is kind of like my open mic. And Instagram, Troy C. Dexter on Instagram and Twitter. And then my website is troydextermusic.com, troydextermusic.com, which my website I'm sure is sorely in need of a little bit of an update, but you'll get the idea. And I guess that's about it. I thank you everybody who are listening. I haven't even been looking at my phone, but I really appreciate all the listeners being here. Terry, I think you're doing an amazing job doing what you do, and I really enjoyed some of the podcasts on the previous platform. But anywho, there you have.
Well, I appreciate you so much, and to all of our listeners, Troy and I, we appreciate you as well. So everybody stay safe, stay inspired, take good care, everybody.
Tune in again next week for another great episode of Making It with Terry Woolman.